Good afternoon, everybody. This is professional development session on Google Classroom. I know many of you have Google Classrooms that you use for your classes, as well as some of you who are pretty reliant on that, or some of you on the other end of the spectrum use it just as out of a necessity for various different things, to say paper usage or whatever. So we've got a great realm of usage within this platform from our faculty. Now that we are going to this near total virtual learning environment due to COVID-19, it's important that we spend just a little time today to discuss some of the very basic tasks within Google Classroom, and some of the very, you know, necessary items that you need to be able to do within Google Classroom if you aren't too familiar with that platform. Now, as we get started, this is the icon that you'll see when you're logged into Google in your regular ECBOE account. You can click on the tab for Google Classroom to access it there. Many of you know that, but if you do not know, this session will be for sort of a beginner session for those who are less experienced with using this platform. That is what the icon will look like. And as I sent out a link the other day, and all of you have already joined my class, that is just a fake class just for usage today. I'd like you to sort of go ahead and be on your devices and get logged into your Google Classrooms as a student in this PD session class. And like I said, this is what we'll be spending time today talking about. We're going to have kids who are at home who are going to be depending on us to be communicative, to be flexible with them, to be available for them, be somebody who they can depend on being there for them, because they need that structure in their daily routines as they are out of school due to COVID-19. Many of you are using Classroom. Some of you may try to use some other platform, but Google Classroom is going to be the best way for us to reach out collaboratively to it as a group, through Google Meet. All that stuff is sort of, you can integrate your classroom stuff through Google Meet, post YouTube links, whatever you may do. What I have personally been doing in my classes is I'll submit a video of myself teaching a PowerPoint, sort of like I'm doing right now. And then I'll sort of create one assignment in Google Classroom to keep everything uniform. So they'll click on a particular chapter or section. So chapter 13, section 2 assignment. And once they open that assignment, they'll see the link to the video, which would be something similar to what we're doing right here. Then inside there as well, in that same folder, there will be additional resources or assignments for them to complete as they complete each section. But again, it's very important that we are flexible and available for our students during this time. All right, so like I asked you a second ago, let's go ahead and log into your account. And this will be sort of an ice-breaking activity for us. I have posted a prompt in your Google Classrooms as a question. It is an assignment, but when you click the Create Assignment tab in Google Classroom, there's an option there to just post a question. That question has been posted, and it is, what are your thoughts on virtual learning? I just want you to type me just a little 3 to 5 sentence paragraph there as it relates to what your personal thoughts are on virtual learning. And when we follow up with this, there may be this same question again to see if those thoughts have changed as you become more dependent on delivering your material through Google Classroom or through a virtual platform. I want you to sort of think about this question now and how your thoughts on it might change for those of you especially who aren't as accustomed to utilizing this tool in your face-to-face classes. So that's what we're going to do for an icebreaker activity. We'll spend 3 to 5 minutes doing this. I think it's important for you to understand that virtual learning is a very love-hate type tool for some of you. For those of you who aren't really that acclimated with technology usage, it is the direction that we're going. I believe virtual learning will be more and more suitable as time goes on, as we become more accustomed to utilizing the tool, and the students become more dependent on delivery of material through virtual learning type atmospheres. I know in my Access classes, that's one platform, but then in Google Classroom, it's a totally different. So there are multiple platforms for delivering instruction through a virtual atmosphere, but at the end of the day, it all roots back to you, the teacher, being able to orchestrate your day and sort of establish your classes so that your students know that you are there for them. You got to be a face through virtual or in a virtual atmosphere. Um, you can't just come to this once a day or once every 36 hours and do this or that. You've got to be there for your students and create a routine for them as you move through your coursework in a virtual atmosphere. Now that we have completed this icebreaker activity where you submitted your response to the question prompt, we're going to break you up into a couple of groups of 4 to 6, and we're going to play musical chairs. The music that we're going to be listening to will be Garrett, a student here. It'll be one of his songs called COVID-19. We're going to play that song that he created while sitting at home during quarantine. And the loser of the musical chair activity will come up here and select a task to complete in Google Classroom. And we'll play this for a couple of rounds. And after the 2 or 3 rounds are done, I will select a task that none of you have selected so that we can all see how 4 or 5 different things are done in Google Classroom, just simple tasks. And we'll talk about those as we do it. Some of the things that will be selectable for you to come up here and do will be just create an assignment, sort of like I've done with the question prompt. Submit a set of questions for your students through a Google Doc and post that in Google Classroom. That'll be another thing that we can do. Post an announcement will be a selection for you to do. Grade an assignment will be a selection for you to choose. And there are many, many, many tasks. And I've got a basket up here or next to the desk here for you to draw. That's what we're going to do. Is the loser of the musical chair activities for each round will come up here and draw one of these tasks out of the basket, and we will allow you to do that. And if you aren't real comfortable with doing that, I'll help you so that we can do this in front of everybody so that everybody can see how these simple tasks are created, administered, and completed through Google Classroom on the student side of things. Here's a document. I've got you all a copy of this. These are some of those simple tasks that I was talking about, creating a question. That's what I've done here for you for your icebreaker activity. It's just a short answer, a multiple choice question for in your example, it was a short answer question. You submit your answer before you can see anybody else's answer. Once you submit them, the replies are shown there. Creating an assignment, that's one where that's what I do the most in my virtual class or U.S. history class. Is I'll create a folder, and in that folder will be a link for them to watch a video on YouTube that I have created of myself presenting my material. And then once they go back out of that video, I will have a set of questions, for example. And one thing to note when you are creating an assignment and submitting a set of questions, so you create this question template. Say I type up 6 or 8 questions that I want my students to answer. When you post that, you need to select a drop-down menu on Google Docs, in your Google Docs, and I'll show you how to do that. And be sure that you create a copy for every student. That way, when they submit their work, it will be their copy they're submitting and not an edited or an overwrite of somebody else's work, whereas that could happen if you don't create a copy for each student. That's something that you need to take note of. Creating quiz assignments, material, you can add resource material, syllabus, classroom rules, links, videos, anything of that nature. Or that far right arrow is reusing a post. You can select an old assignment or material you've posted previously, and it will basically just copy it into a new post. Those are some of the more simple, most common tasks that you will use in Google Classroom. This is just sort of like another infographic here of what your screen might look like when you create a class. You can click that add button and it'll ask you to join a class, what you did to join my class. Or on your teacher side, you will be creating classes and asking your students to join them by submitting them an email with a class code, or inviting them to join with a class code, or adding them directly by email, whichever you choose, to get all your students into your classes. That's some more of what your screen may look like once inside Google Classroom. Once we disperse from here today, at the end of next week, hopefully all of you will be able to get everybody sort of acclimated to the virtual learning environment that we're going to be going with for the rest of the school year due to COVID-19. We will have a Google Meet session, and I will share with you a link to join that session. Like I said, that'll be at the end of next week. And within that, we want to discuss how you transition your students to a full virtual learning atmosphere. For those students that don't have devices at home or no internet capabilities, we understand that your class sizes will be smaller on the virtual side. But for those students that are at home without technology, obviously you'll have to send home paper packets for them to complete. And hopefully you can basically imitate your virtual atmosphere on paper for those students. We'll have a sign-in sheet documenting that we are all there for the Google Meet session to follow up on this session. We'll also discuss any concerns, snags, issues, whatever that you might have with the Google Classroom platform for those of you who are obviously becoming more dependent on it going forward. And hopefully for any of you that do have problems with us all being in there, somebody will be able to contribute the solution to some of those concerns, snags, or issues that we face, because there will be some. Some of you will have some issues, and hopefully we can create a solution for those with this Google Meet session at the end of next week. Here's a copy of the rubric. I would like for each of you, it's pretty simple, it's four items, excuse me. With 1 being a low score or 5 being a high score. I'd like you to please fill out this to see that, what I can do to create a better PD session for you. It's just 4 items here that I'd like you all to submit prior to your departure today. At this time, we're dismissed. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. If not, you are free to go. And I thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much.